All right. Let's get this out of the way first. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed on Tailboard Talks Firefighter podcast are solely those of the speakers, guests, and host, and do not in any way represent the thoughts or views or opinions of any other employer, partnership, or sponsor. The material and information in this podcast is for general information purposes only and should be used at the listener's discretion. All right, well, let's start.
All right, let's start.
So, Angie, before we get started, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks.
You're now our most common recurring guest.
I thought it was our show.
Yeah, it's just, I'm just being a funny guy.
I'm kidding.
Why don't you, before we get started, remind people how they can support us? Quick, off the top of your head, two ways.
Okay, so if you would love to support us, which we would love for you to support us, you can absolutely donate coffee to us. We do have a button we can link onto our episode or our little snippets we put out that you can do that. You can also...
Through the Buy Me a Coffee page.
Yes.
Side note on that, Katie, we just finished doing the taxes thing.
Yes.
And Katie confronted me this morning because I was like, man, I'm spending a lot of money in the past couple of months. Like buying the new microphones and just random stuff, right? And she's like, well, it's good you realize that because you spent $1,000 on coffee last year. And I said, whatever.
Worth it.
And then she pulled up this is how ridiculous she is. I'm like, well, what do you mean spent $1,000 on coffee? And it was like $1,147.20. All she does is pull up the screenshot she took of the calculator, and she goes, look. I said, what is that? That's just a number. I can show you all kinds of numbers. But I said, well, some of that is like when I put $50 on the Dunkin' Donuts card and then put the code on
right,
Instagram,
so it's not
whatever.
just like one.
She's like, yeah, you had 3 or 4 $50 charges. So then I took that out of it, and it's basically $2.50 a day on coffee.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad.
No, it's not terrible.
But yeah,
why
she
don't you
confronted
just
me
get
with that
like
today. We have. That's just the coffee I bought with the business card.
Oh, with the business card. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and I said, well, half of that was probably for you, too. I'm like, what are you complaining about? She's like, I'm not complaining. I'm just telling you where your money's going.
I think it's a well-deserved spot to be putting money in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're asking for more. That's why I told that story.
So yes, we would like more. So please do that. Please look at that. Also, Rescue One CBD. That is a awesome place that you can go ahead and get stuff that's going to help you in all different areas of your life, including sleep. You can use our code TAILBOARD to get 15% off. And yeah, you guys need to check them out. Get cozy before you sleep. Use some tincture.
You're really good at ad-libbing stuff.
I know. Anywho.
Let's talk about leadership.
Yeah, let's do that because that's why we're here.
Among other reasons, yeah. Plus an ambush episode.
Yeah, otherwise, my life is just slightly on fire right now, but we're fine. We are going to talk about leadership. So this is our second time recording this because the first time I was so nervous about talking about this that I had a paper in my face and I was asking really...
You were like Chris Farley on
It was so stupid.
You're like, do you remember that one scene where you kicked the guy off the roof?
What do you think about that?
Do you remember that? That was cool, right?
It was just terrible. I wasn't me. I needed a Snickers.
Yeah.
So...
There's a crying baby behind us.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay.
All right, so kick into leadership.
Okay, so leadership is important, and I think that we're not just talking about promotional areas, right? So we're not just talking about our officers, chiefs, things like that. Anybody can lead from any point of their career, life, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I do think that there are extremely important qualities to have as a leader. And of course you always hear you gotta have integrity and honesty. And while I agree, that is so important in leadership, I think everyone needs to have that anyway to be a human being. So I'm not going to go ahead and say the integrity and honesty thing.
You should probably apply your pre-existing integrity and honesty to leadership. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Being a leader is not the reason to suddenly gain those things.
Right, exactly.
Probably have those things.
Exactly. So we're going to go a little bit deeper in that, and I think that my number one quality that I truly believe every leader should have is emotional intelligence.
Okay.
That is honestly a number one quality for me. I think that tends to umbrella multiple different things in leadership, like improved communication, positive work environment. When you have emotional intelligence, you can understand and manage your own emotions, recognize and respond appropriately to the emotions of other people, and then, like I said, it trickles down into all these important leadership qualities.
I was going to say, what is emotional intelligence? But I think you just defined it more or less.
Yeah, I did.
In the last sentence, right?
I did.
And I was going to go look at it to give you a definition, but I'm not on the Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's not good. But that's okay, because I'm right.
Yeah. I just trust you.
So, story with this, I guess, is I think that this is something that I personally need to continue to work on. I think I've definitely gotten better at this, but it is something that I know that I need to continue to work on. So a little story time about my little dumpster fire of a life.
Tiny dumpster fire.
It's a little one.
Yeah.
Just a little one. So basically, when I was in paramedic school, I was under a lot of stress. I mean, not just because of paramedic school, but just because of outside things or inside things at work or all these things just piling up, right?
Yeah.
So I was also navigating how to be at a department. So it was just a lot of stress.
Did you go to medic school while you were full-time or part-time?
No, I was part-time during this. So I was part-time during this. And I have an attendant. Excuse me. I have a tendency to have an emotion,
Yeah.
look at it more as a problem.
I'm having an emotion.
I'm having an emotion right now.
It's like talking to Nathan. I'm having an emotion. Go on.
Sorry. And then look at it as it's actually a problem and not like a correct emotion.
Yeah.
And then go tuck it somewhere and not deal with it and just think, okay, like this is temporary and it's just going to pass and it's not going to be an issue. And so I did that a lot with a lot of emotions with things that were going on in all aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And then, you take your worst day, let's say, you're on your way to work, you spilled your coffee all over yourself, you're like fighting with your spouse, things aren't going like how you want at work, you're trying to test for full time, you're doing all this stuff, you're in all this stress. And we went to an event, we had to go to an event to attend, for X amount of hours. And a person looks at me and goes, "What is wrong with you? You look like you got hit by a dump truck."
Oh, heck yeah.
And so that was like...
Talking about my dump truck right now?
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, I ruined your story. Go on.
You did. So anyway, and that was just like the icing on the cake. So that's like your worst day, and then you like close your hand in a door or you stub your toe. And all of my emotions just from on a normal day, if I was having like a normal regular day and things were going well, and then someone said that to me, it would just be so easy for me to just like be like, okay, well, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to ignore what you just said to me and not let it affect me. But not that day. So I had very bad emotional intelligence that day and let that comment kind of overwhelm me with everything else, where I just...
Wait, you think you had the bad emotional intelligence?
So I think it was both-sided, right?
Yeah.
So instead of being like, hey, you look like you're having a bad day, what's going on?
Yeah.
You just kind of told me that I looked like a dump truck in front of...
Hit you.
Or hit like a... Yeah, whatever. Same thing. Like, what's the difference? In front of all of your coworkers.
Yeah.
All these people coming into this event. And it's just... It was overwhelming, and so I think it was both-sided. So
Where's your bad emotional intelligence, though?
I broke down.
Well, that's not bad emotional intelligence.
I think well, I didn't manage my emotions in a workplace.
That's fine.
That's what I'm saying, though.
That person had the example of bad emotional intelligence. Yeah, I just did that last week to another guy we work with who was having a very obviously off day, and and everybody noticed it, and I was like, something's wrong with this guy. So we tried to poke him a little bit, be like, "What's up, man?" He's like, "Nothing." He was very closed off about it.
Yeah.
For appropriate reasons. And then I was like, "Well, if you're not gonna tell us quietly, I'm gonna ask you loudly." And so then we started just beating him up in the kitchen,
Yeah.
And taking wild guesses at what was wrong, just throwing absurd stuff out there, you know. And then we said one or two absurd things that he kind of got weirder about.
Oh.
And I was like, okay.
We know.
And then and then it was like, okay, you don't have to tell us. Everybody kind of read it and then backed off a little bit.
Read the room.
And then I went one-on-one and told him, like, okay, now we have to actually talk about this thing. Like you can't be such a weirdo around here all day long. You can be, but not with this crew, unfortunately, because we're going to pick on it a little bit. But it's one of those things where, like, I think that person needed a little more wraparound care with telling you looked like you got hit by a dump truck. but I can empathize with that approach because we do that too in my crew. We'll hit stuff pretty hard head on and then hopefully pick up the pieces.
No, for sure. Well, I went home, so that was where I was just like,
we were worried he was going to go home.
I was like, I can't do this. Yeah. I'm like, I need to go home.
Like, oh, now you look great.
I know, and so that was, I think about that stuff now, and I get disappointed in myself. I think kind of handling it in that way, but I also think that I do have a lot of. I am human. We're all human. We all have these moments. We can't expect to be perfect 24/7.
Yeah.
But I do think that I do have a lot of emotional intelligence, especially when it comes to other people. And how I know that is because other people tend to flock towards me when they're having a problem or if they want to talk to somebody or something, because I show a lot of empathy and I am a very open listener. So that's kind of my whole jam with the emotional intelligence. I think that's extremely important. Because,
so that's number one.
Yeah, to me that's number one, absolutely. Number two is adaptability. And again, this is another one of those things where you can really spread that out on way different topics, whether that's adaptability within culture, within behavior, within mindset, within training, complex calls. So, story time. So I was at I believe it was a division training. I'm not totally positive, but we were at the tower, and so I had somebody in my crew that was appointed the officer in that evolution.
Yeah.
And basically, the evolution was you have a fire on the second floor, you're stretching the skid load. Basically, go, flake it out, get in there, find the fire, put it out.
Yeah.
Very simple, basic, whatever. Again, I'm a newer firefighter at the time. I'm not necessarily knowing what to do. I want to do what my officer is telling me to do. I don't want to do anything unless my officer is telling me to do it because you don't know what you don't know when you're new like that.
Yeah.
And so I come off the rig with the skid load and I have it on my shoulder and I go to my officer and I say, do you want me to put it at the bottom of the stair or do you want me to put it on the landing? Because I didn't know. I didn't know what was best. And the response was, well, what do they want us to do? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Do you want me to put it here or do you want me to put it here? And so
who was the they were talking about? He was talking about.
Well, like the people who were like doing the people who are doing or setting up what we were supposed to do.
Playing drill too much?
I guess, And so he wouldn't answer me. So I'm like, well, all right, I'm just going to take it up here and I'm just going to put it on the landing. And it was wrong. Like, you're not supposed to put a skid load on the landing.
Okay.
I know that now, obviously, years later. Like, probably not the best to flake that out.
You never know.
But, adapt and overcome, right?
Yeah.
So I think that you have to have someone who can make a decision in those split seconds. I think that's really important in that role.
Yeah.
Especially when things go south, right? You need someone to be able to make a quick decision. So adaptability, extremely important in leadership. Again, like I said, it's not just, training or if on the fire ground or anything else. It's in the firehouse. It's your crew's like cohesion. It's being able to adapt to different personalities, different types of problems.
I think that's where we see the biggest problem, though, is like, I shouldn't say the biggest problem. I feel like there's two big places where you need to make decisions. One's on the fire ground or the call scene or whatever, which typically, I would say easier and more clear-cut, because even if you panic and you say something completely inappropriate or wrong, like a wrong tactic, that's the plan. like you can just say that wrong thing loudly, and everybody knows at least what the bad plan is, and then you can try to mold that bad plan. I think a lot of officers get in trouble with the not emergent stuff in the station where it's time to make a decision on like, what are we doing today? Or what are we training on today? Or deciding when to intervene in stuff or get involved or step back. And if you just kind of ride the neutral ground the whole time, you're actually going to be probably pissing off a lot more people than you think, because the number one complaint I heard when I was going to get promoted, I went around to like a bunch of senior people and I was like, well, what have you seen that you don't like about younger lieutenants, or like people who aren't at like the 20-year mark where they're getting promoted? Like, what's the biggest falling down point? And most of them surprisingly said, like, if you say you want to be a leader, then we want you to be a leader too. Like, I don't want you to become a leader and get promoted and be my boss and then keep asking me what to do. Like, with anything.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what needs to be cleaned. Don't ask me, like, what should we do for lunch. You're setting the pace. And if you want to delegate stuff like, hey, you're doing lunch, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But don't come in and just throw your hands up and be like, oh, I'm still just one of the guys just wearing a different colored shirt. That's not what you said you want to do, and that's not what we're paying you for, so be a leader. And I was like, that's kind of surprising coming from the people that did, because the people it came from were very, like, established and independent people who I thought would have the attitude like, if you try to come in and tell me what to do, I'm going to fight. I'm going to push back a little bit because I've been here longer than you, so I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And it was those people who were like, no, if you say you're going to be a leader, then I expect you to be a leader, and you tell us what to do. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
So surprising.
Yeah, I mean, it is surprising.
But that's the hard part of being a leader, is telling people with 10 more years on you to, like I said before, like, take a blood pressure.
Right, exactly. Like, it's so...
Hey, can you go throw some salt on the sidewalk to the 30-year guy?
Please do this?
Yeah.
So when I was in academy, I was voted to be class leader. However, being in a million different careers, I guess you would call it, I've done everything.
Yeah.
We already established that with like our first episode. I think that I learned a lot going through all those things and seeing different management and things like that. And when I became class leader, we were like, we need to make t-shirts and we need to do this like saying for all of us, because you'd see all the old t-shirts and you'd see, they would have like the class leader and like their name, so that like it shows that they were class leader, and then they would have everybody in like some alphabetical.
This is a lot of.
Well, when you're done with academy, you have to. That's how they did it at the school. That's good. So that was just like it was.
I like it. I like it. They're building.
It was cool because it was like you kind of. It was a pride thing, right?
Yeah.
So it was a pride thing. It was a thing we could do with your team. So. We ended up using Grunt. I got a hold of Grunt Style because my friend had worked for Grunt Style, so we ended up getting them. And we all came up with the quote, build a team so strong you don't know who the leader is. And I wanted to make sure that everyone's names on the shirt was not in any specific order. I just wanted them to be thrown on there because I didn't want any kind of recognition about me being a team leader. I just wanted to have a really cohesive academy where everyone did really well and whatever. And I think that's when I kind of adopted the servant leadership style, to which I didn't know leadership styles back then. That was just what felt right. And so as I got older and then looking into leadership styles, that is truly one that I think is the best. The military is adopting it. More fire departments are adopting it. They see that it seems to be actually the best one right now to be having. So there are a ton of positives to servant leadership.
What is servant leadership?
Servant leadership?
Yeah.
I would like to know what your definition.
No, I want to know the actual definition.
Oh, you actually want to know the definition? Okay, we can definitely pull that up.
Because it's one of those like.
Because I do think that
when servant leadership feels like a thought bubble, like a cloud, a word cloud to me, where you can put all kinds of tags to it.
Yeah. So this says, servant leadership is a leadership style where the leader prioritizes serving others above personal gain, focusing on creating an environment where their team can thrive and reach their full potential, rather than solely managing for results. So it's less management, really. I mean, it says the key aspects of it is putting others first, So they actively listen to their team, understand their needs, and then works to support their growth and development. Empathy and compassion, showing genuine concern for others' well-being and perspectives. Empowerment, providing team members with autonomy. Oh my gosh, why
Autonomy.
can't I? Yeah, thank you.
Autonomy.
I'm like, I can't read. And the ability to make decisions. Building community, so fostering a sense of belonging and shared purpose within your team, commitment to growth, encouraging continuous learning and personal development of individuals, and humility, recognizing the value of others and not seeking personal recognition. All great qualities of leaders.
Yeah.
I think that elaborating on it, I guess, there's all these other points too that I ended up reading about. It's collaboration over hierarchy, it's empowerment, trust and mutual respect, resilience and adaptability, servant leadership. Great leaders build teams that don't need micromanagement. They need support, guide, and develop others. So leadership becomes a shared responsibility, which is something that we had talked about. Could that be a con, right? Could that be a con when there's shared power or shared, I don't know, is it shared power or shared?
I think there's a fine line between servant leadership and like the uninvolved leader, the laissez-faire one, right? Or something like that, where it's like, oh, I just let them do their own thing and they make their own decisions, and as long as they get their work done, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
I don't bug them, kind of thing. There's a fine line between servant leadership and uninvolved or disconnected leadership. And I think a lot of people abuse it of like, no, I let my back end guy, like, he knows he's got to clean the bathroom, and this guy knows he's got to check the pump, and I don't get in their way, and they just get it done, and there's no problems.
Yeah.
Instead of an engaged leader who would make sure that, like, everybody's in it together, and he sets up drills to get the evolutions done. And
Sorry for my weird faces.
I've gotten used to it.
Have you noticed that my eyelid has been twitching?
It's just when I talk.
Oh my gosh, it's like been doing this for 12 days.
It's just when I talk.
Like I said, my dumpster fire.
But yeah, there's a
Sorry.
fine line there. But just because you trust your people and you know they're going to get the job doesn't mean you get to be disengaged from them. That means you get to use them in a greater capacity.
So I think there's a fine balance with this leadership.
Yeah.
A very fine balance that you have to kind of figure out, because I think that one of the cons to this leadership, which if I had to choose any, I would still choose this one, regardless of the con, because I think that it can always be addressed, is it can become too like decentralized. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of like lose decision making and accountability in it. So I think that sometimes when there's not a clear like leader person in there, that decision making can actually be slower.
It can be screwed up, that's for sure.
Screwed up or slowed down or whatever you want to call it.
Here's the example we always give is on a house fire. And I just had this conversation with my back-end guy the other day because we did a couple live fire drills. And he had done them before with a different crew. He worked overtime or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we got to the drill and he immediately started doing stuff. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just going to pull the line to the front door. I'm like, we're not even there yet. Like, I need you to stay here and wait for a second and let me do my thing. And then when I decide what we're going to do, then we do the thing. Like, it's probably going to be what you're doing because that's what the drill is, but you got to hold on a second.
Yeah.
And we use that example a lot with like, don't make somebody redo something. So even if you have the best intentions and you just go and not quite freelance, but you take it upon yourself to do something, the worst thing that could happen is that now I have to stop you from doing that and reroute you somewhere else, and then you have to start something new, but with a 2-minute delay now. Mm-hmm. So there still has to be a leader there, but after the start gun, that's when the decentralized command begins.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a threat in that. Even now, like, I have a very experienced driver, I have a very experienced back-end guy, and every time when we're parking on an incident, they'll be like, right here or up further or what? Like, he knows where to park, and he knows where he wants to park, and most of these are just looking for confirmation. And my back-end guy is just looking for confirmation, but they know that I might have a different idea in my head, and they don't want to screw me up or jam the whole operation up. So even though they're not really asking, they're asking for, like, permission to do what they want to do. It's all part of a team. Like, that's a role we all play, right?
Absolutely.
And so they're not checking in to, like, pat me on the head and be like, all right, little guy, we got this, or to pad my ego. They're just making sure we're all on the same page, and then it's all good. My back end guy's completely derailed my entire plan for fires before. Or I've been like, park over here and we're going to go around. He's like, I think we should go around the other side. And I'll be like, yeah, we probably should, huh? And he'll drive around and do his thing.
That's awesome.
But that's part of the game. You
Yeah.
know? He's not going to blindly let me screw up, and I'm also not going to be like, nope, I'm the boss, so I said what I say goes.
Right.
Now, if there was a 5-minute guy on the back and he's like, we should go to the other side, I'd be like, you
chill out.
find your gloves, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Hush, hush.
So it's with the team you play, but yeah, learning that skill. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's an awesome place to be where I am right now. It's going to change in a few years when we pick our shifts.
Do you think that's, I mean, obviously your crew,
it's just going to be a different cast of characters. Yeah, we won't stay together, unfortunately. I don't think we can.
Yeah.
Well, he's retiring, so we can't. But that's just learning the way that crew operates. And they learn how to tolerate and manage me, and I learn how to get what I can out of them, and it's all good.
Yeah, and I do think, I just want to put this out there, that I do think that it is important if you are under, you know, if you feel that your department and the leadership in your department doesn't align with your ethics or what you think
that's a big one. Yeah,
should be. I feel like so many people feel so like stuck, and I feel like it's not worth trying to wait something out that it's like, oh gosh, I'm like, I don't know how to put this.
Well, so there's the sunk cost fallacy, right? Which says that like you should always bail rather than wait something out. Like if you're in a movie in 15 minutes and you know it's not for you, just because you paid $35 to be there doesn't mean you should stay there. Like it's better to lose the $35 and go do something else. But also we're dealing with like 30-year careers here.
Okay, so like that's kind of different.
Balance,
so
right?
that's a tough balance, and that's different because there are some people that, you know, and I was going to say, I understand people who've been, you know, maybe at their departments for that long, or they have kids and things like that, and that's a lot tougher. However, if you are finding yourself early on in your career that it's not aligning with what you want or the type of leadership that you need or ethics and everything like that, that you're not stuck. And right now is probably the perfect time to go out there and find that, because if you know that things are going to get worse, you should probably think about that.
Things will get worse before they get worse.
Always. It's like watering turf.
I like it.
It's not going to change.
I like it.
It's not going to grow.
Yeah.
And I know that the grass isn't greener always on the other side.
Nope.
Every place has their problems, but if you're legitimately unhappy and it doesn't align with what you want, you are not stuck, my friend.
Yeah, I would say by the end of probation, you should be able to see the underlying culture of where you're working.
100%. And then make a decision.
There should not be many surprises after probation. Like you've gone through the steps, you've been put through the ringer, you've seen the different characters, and you also see the history and the, for more or less traditions or just kind of what that place is all about. If you're angry past that, you needed a better support system. You could have seen it coming.
Oh, 100%.
You can also choose to. I know plenty of guys that just absorb that, and they're like, "That's just what this place is." A lot of them are former military members, who are like, "That wasn't perfect. This isn't perfect, but I got a group of people I can deal with here, and I understand in the whole what the job is about, and I'm all good."
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, we had people leaving the first year because they're like, "This isn't for me."
Yeah, but good for them.
We'd rather see them go somewhere.
Right,
I'd always
exactly.
rather see someone
Like,
go
don't
somewhere
be
and be
miserable.
happy.
Like,
No.
if this isn't the place for you, that's okay.
No, because I don't want to manage that person.
Right.
5 years from now when they're actually pissed off.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, wrap it up. We're at 30 minutes, and I got to
Oh
cut
yeah,
some
guess
stuff
what?
out.
Guess what I came up with?
I don't know.
I came up with
An acronym.
a tagline. Maybe.
Oh, good.
Maybe. This is a tester.
Is that the one we? It's not the one we shared yesterday.
Tailboard talks.
It's good so far.
Hot coffee.
Okay. And dump trucks.
Hot topics.
Ah, jeez.
Real firehouse conversations.
Oh, man, it's very official.
Or stay sharp, stay resilient. I was trying to like play off of your stay durable.
Durable and
Durable.
capable and
Capable.
durable. On the
I don't
job
know.
away
This is
from
a
it.
tester. We'll see. I'm going to change it probably 20 more times. That's just my personality.
Okay. I like it.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Catch us next time. Hot coffee, hot topics, real firehouse conversations.
Stay sharp.
Stay sharp.